All right. I want to start kicking this illness here. Start making videos again. So let's see how this goes. In this video, I want to get into things that appeal to the carnal nature, to your flesh. And I see this happening a lot in Christianity and with the people that I talk to. I notice things that people gravitate towards, not because they're true or biblical, but that they appeal to your flesh. And I'm going to give some examples of this. The first thing is a majority. Like if you got a group and a large group believe in something, that appeals to the carnal nature. It appeals to the flesh. Like look at how many people we got. We are large, we are mighty. That's very appealing to the flesh, to the sight. Right? Another thing is being able to judge others, to put yourself above them. Now, I need to really differentiate what I mean here because the Bible does talk about judging, but it says to judge righteously, to judge righteous judgment. So an example would be saying that you shouldn't chew bubblegum, but you yourself chew bubblegum. You make a hypocrite of yourself. That's not a righteous judgment, right? Where you make a double standard, or you're biased, right? Where you can do whatever you want and you don't get punished for it, but somebody else does the same things you're doing and they should be punished for it. That's unrighteous judgment. That's basically condemnation. And that's what the Bible is generally against, is not so much judging, but condemning. But our carnal flesh nature loves to be able to judge in a condemning way because it puts ourselves above others, and we naturally like that. Our flesh likes to be exalted, even in little things. And an example, I'll give you a few, is not just like, oh, you're getting a promotion or you get a certain position in the church or something like that, but things like being part of the true church. And what I mean by this is not by faith, but by, like, say, the Catholic teaching that you have to be part of their church to be saved. Or the Seventh-day Adventists, they say that they are the remnant Laodicean church, and that you need to be part of their church to be saved. Other churches have similar doctrine where you would be part of their church because they're the true church, everybody else is false. That appeals to the flesh because you've got something visual that you're part of and you can judge others. Hey, you're not part of my church, so you're lost. So you got a way to judge and condemn others and put yourself above other people by saying you're part of that true church, whether you're Catholic, Seventh-day Adventist, or one of the other many churches that like to use that doctrine. I believe even Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, among many other sects of Christianity, like to play that. Another thing is overcoming sin. A lot of people like to say that this is what you got to do once you're saved. So you can sit there and prove you're saved because let's say your life wasn't as crazy as somebody else's life who accepted Jesus. So you find it easier to overcome a lot of what society sees as wrong or sinful. So you find it easy in that sense to overcome sin, at least outwardly. And this, again, boosts the flesh. It makes you feel special, that you are more saved than somebody else. And that's why these teachings get a lot of people to follow them, not because they're true and you can prove them, but because they appeal to the flesh, to the carnal nature. So it makes you feel above somebody who they might have a rougher life than you did, or their sin that they're dealing with is not as socially acceptable. So let's say they're homosexual, and the church isn't really welcoming them to that, but they bring in people who have committed adultery, they're fornicators, druggies. They're more warm to them than they are generally to homosexuals, even though it's just another sin, because it's not as socially as acceptable as the other sins. Even though it's becoming more socially acceptable, it's still not so much with the church, where there's certain sins that they kind of go, oh, this isn't so bad. These ones are wretched and shouldn't even be thought about at all. And it's just another way to put yourself above others. The next step is that it's law keeping, right? Where you keep the Ten Commandments, such as Seventh-day Adventist, where you got to keep the true Sabbath, which is resting on Saturday from sundown Friday evening till sundown Saturday evening. And that's the true Sabbath. That's when you don't do any work, and yada, yada, yada. And this proves that you're saved, and it appeals to the flesh that you're doing something to prove you're saved, to earn your salvation, and you can put yourself above others where you're not keeping this. That means I'm above you. You're condemned. You're lost. But again, it's just something that it's appealing to the flesh because you are able to put yourself above others. Another quick one is like what I have here. I typed in appealing to the flesh, and this is one of the things that came up that made sense for the video, because some churches, that's what they'll do. They'll bring in a bunch of musical instruments, some laser lighting, an atmosphere, and they'll put on basically a concert at church because it appeals to the flesh. You know, you're entertained, you're enjoying this stuff. Yeah, they could be playing religious music, but it's also about the intention. Is it more about, oh, I'm doing this for my entertainment, or am I doing this to really praise God here? Because do you really need all of this? Really? No, you don't. You can just have somebody with a pure heart that's just full of love of Jesus, and they just sing their heart out. That's all you really need. But that doesn't appeal to the flesh. But anyway, another thing is what you want to hear appeals to the flesh. I know the easiest thing to point out is this prosperity gospel. It's what people want to hear, where I'm rich because God's blessing me and God loves me, and the reason why other people aren't rich is not because I'm not helping them and I need to give to help others. It's that God isn't blessing them the way He's blessing me because He loves me more than other people. And that, again, appeals to the flesh, because what does it do? It puts you above others. And you notice that's what the flesh loves. A lot of these things, what they have in common is the ability to cause a division among people and a hierarchy where you can put yourself up and you can put other people down. So either you get elevated for some reason or other people get downgraded for some reason, but either way it does the same thing. It causes a separation and a hierarchy of people who are better and closer to God and people who are crappier and further from God. And that appeals to the flesh. And you really need to ask yourself and think about some of these things. That am I going along with this because it's true and biblical, or am I going along with this because I like it? My flesh likes it. Another thing, and it's a big thing that the flesh loves, is to be able to go by sight. And that's another thing all these things get caught up in. When you got a prosperity gospel, you can see the money, the wealth. So you're like, I'm blessed because look at my wealth, right? Look how I'm being blessed here by God. You're going by sight instead of by faith, where you could be a jobless, homeless man and being completely blessed by God and all your treasures in heaven, but you got to go by faith. The flesh doesn't like that. And Like I said, you're part of that true church. You can see it. You're overcoming sin, something else you can see. You're keeping the law, something else you can see. The carnal mind loves the sight, something physical, something you got tangible proof that you can hold in your hand. It doesn't want to walk by faith. It doesn't want to just trust God and just go blindly through life. That does not appeal to the flesh at all. So that's another thing that you would have to really look at yourself and examine yourself. Am I really getting tied into things that are based off sight and not by faith? Because you could judge something like me being sick right now as condemnation from God, right? Some people may say, "Oh, you're sick. You're not getting better because you lack faith." And I think all these judgmental things and all these things that would put me down and elevate themselves. It's just something that the flesh loves. This is not something I've actually had to deal with. I'm just using it as an example because I know some people don't like me. I made a lot of enemies talking in forums and doing videos, and it makes them happy when bad things happen to me. And you can tell when, if you actually talk to them, that when you can talk to somebody and you can just feel the energy and the joy coming from them, that they're happy. And it seems odd when they get that way when you're not happy or things aren't going your way, and you just kind of know, okay, this person don't like me. But what are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna do? So anyway, that sums it up. I was just thinking about a few of these things and people I've been talking to. Not so much as of late, but just thinking about how the flesh really wins out. Even with Christians who believe in Jesus and have that saving faith where they believe Jesus paid for their sins and that they're saved because of the grace of God, not because of themselves. They have that saving faith, yet their flesh can still conquer them in this way that they go after this false doctrine and they start believing these things that only basically appeal to your sight, to your flesh, and really destroy faith. So I felt like doing this video, seeing how I feel, seeing if I could do it without coughing my brains out, see if my voice could hold up without giving out on me too. I haven't talked this much in, I guess, a couple weeks. But I feel pretty good. We'll see how this goes. If I just cough my brains out when this video is done or whatnot. But uh, can't even mention it without doing it. So anyway, thanks for watching and take care.